All right. Sound, I think, is working. Hey, good evening. I was just sitting here messing around with a little bit of a short that I'm just going to work on while waiting to see who shows up. So, as always, welcome to the chat and let me know you can hear me because I can't always tell if you can hear me. And I'll type that down here too. All right, there we go. Let me know who you are, where you're from. That helps. We're just waiting for folks to join so we can get started. Mm, it's hot today. I had to sneak in a tall one today. So, who do we got here? I know I've got somebody up there. I wish there was a way in these lives for me to actually see who's out there. So, since I can't see who's there, and I'm going to have to try some new software pretty soon. But since I can't see who you are, it always helps if you drop me a notice in the chat. Just pop me up in the chat. Just say, hi, it's me. I'm Bob. I'm from Yugoslavia or wherever you're from. And let me know that you can hear me. So I'm not sitting here talking to myself and not fixing the problem if you can't hear me. Will Cole from Louisiana, then you can hear me. Will, I've seen your name before. Didn't know you were from Louisiana though. So right on. Whereabouts is it Louisiana or Louisiana? And is it, let's see, Lower Alabama? No, that's Lower Alabama. But Lower Alabama is almost Louisiana. While we're waiting for folks to join, I actually did some cell phone work in oh gosh, Monroe. I was told it's not Monroe, it's Monroe, and spent quite a bit of time in Shreveport. And there's of course the Red River runs right through there. And the guy that I was working with at the time, I want to say his name was Travis. He had decided to go out and party a little bit more than I was willing to do. And so while I went back to my hotel room, crashed out, he went out and partied. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had a cop banging on the door. And I thought, uh-oh, what have I done? So I answered the door and he says, do you know this guy? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do. What's going on? He said, well, he's back at the police station. You got to come pick him up. And of course, I'm going, I don't know. I mean, we work together. It's not like I'm his keeper of any sort, right? We're not family. And so I get to the police station. And on the way there, though, I find out that what happened is he had a little too much to drink. And there's a T intersection along the river. There's like a big stretch of grass that's about 30 feet below the road. And it goes like, gosh, it must be 100 yards or something like that before it's all trees and bushes and it drops right down to the Red River. And apparently that T intersection, he was coming down towards the river doing about 70 miles an hour, and he missed the fact that there was a T intersection there. Jumped clean over that 30-foot plus bank. I must have gone, I don't know, 30, 50 yards. He went a long way. And of course, hit the ground there, bounced a few times, kept going, jumped through the trees on the other side, and ended up in the Red River. And they found him and not the rental car. So when I picked him up, he was dried off by then and sobered up by then. But needless to say, he didn't get to work for the company much longer. So that's my Louisiana story, or one of them anyway. I also did some time down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, when I was gearing up for a Bosnia deployment. But that's a whole nother story. So anyway, there you go. And we're just waiting for folks to show up. I see 3 of you out there. So drop me a note in the chat. Say hi. Let me know who you are, where you're from. Always nice to know who I'm talking to on these things because I can't see names otherwise. So that definitely helps. But and then once we get a few people here, we'll get started and get some Q&A going or whatever. I tend to do these things pretty loosely, a little bit of channel updates, talk about what's going on, and then just do some Q&A, any kind of questions anybody has. So I still only have Will commenting down in the chat section. if you're not viewing full screen, then you'll usually see it on the right hand side of your screen. There's a chat section there. If you didn't know that, maybe, folks, if you didn't know that, obviously Will does. I've never done it on my phone, and I wonder if doing it on a phone, it would actually show up. So I'm going to turn this volume off. I'm going to see what happens if I join on my phone, just to see, what it shows me. So, yeah, the live chat comes up right under the phone, or right under the screen if you're on the phone. There's also a button that says live chat. So if you didn't know that, there you go. I've just answered that for you. And then here, let's see, live chat. Oh, now it says live chat. Oh, live chat. There we go. Right on. So now, and I was asked, so one of my viewers, Dean, who's been awesome every time I've done one of these live chats, and Dean has been here. I can't speak today. He's done super stickers, I guess they're called, in chat. And he said, tell people how they can do that. So I thought, what the heck, why not? I'll tell you that. So if you're on your phone, at the very bottom, there's a chat. You can type your questions down there. To the right of that's a $sign. That is what those super stickers or super chats are. They just do highlighting. And it's up to you whether you want to do them or not. But if you find these useful, those do help. I get about $2 or something off of those. So anyway, enough of that. But as always, let me know who's here in the chat. Just say hi, give me your name, maybe where you're at. That always helps. If you have questions, fire away. Just let them rip right away. I always try to answer every question that pops up in the chat, whether it's sawmill related, obviously, or off-grid cabin, the Jeep, if it's YouTube, whatever it is, you ask questions, I'll answer them. That's how these go. If I don't have questions, then I'm just going to blab on about something. But I did have a couple things I was going to talk about tonight, and we're 6 minutes in, so I could probably get started. One, I was going to do a little bit of channel updates for you. If you watch the last two videos, you'll notice, of course, I had Kevin come in, do some milling for me. You're going to get to see more of Kevin milling up the sycamores that we had, and then also doing some beautiful spalted maple that was unbelievably dry. And I actually had a lot of fun filming Kevin doing the work, and it's funny because I love to run the sawmill. I really do. I really enjoy doing it. I'll eat sawdust all day long, folks. I really will. And so it's hard for me not to be involved. And one of the interesting things that happened with Kevin being there, and this being my customer, originally my customer, though I handed the customers over to Kevin completely. So just if you're curious how that worked, I reached out to the customers and I said, look, I'm having trouble with my mill. My back's out. I can't run the mill. Just not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to get these logs milled up for you in a timely manner. And one of them had been waiting really entirely too long. And I said, however, I got a buddy, lots of experience. He could do this for you if you're willing to work with him. He's going to have to come down from Coeur d'Alene, though. So, there'll be some travel associated with that. But if you're willing to work with him, then I'll connect you guys up. And so that's what I did. So I handed those customers to Kevin directly. They're his customers now, not mine. And that way he does the business negotiations. I like to do it that way. It's none of my business, how he runs his. And so by handing those customers off, they're Kevin's customers now. I just get to go mill. But the thing I was going to tell you that was interesting is that because I had all of the original contacts and working up to do the jobs with those customers, one of them was coming to me asking me, what about this, what about that? And I had to tell him, and he was really good about it. It wasn't a bad situation or anything like that, but it's just kind of one of those weird kind of things that can happen. And I just said, honestly, it's Kevin's show. I'm just here to film now. You got to work with Kevin, talk to him, tell him what you want. He'll tell you what he wants. And one of the reasons for that is that every sawyer is a little different. I do a little bit of a lengthy safety briefing at the beginning of every job. Some guys don't. Some guys say, hey, A, B, do. Now in my videos, you're not going to see all of that. So like in the second video with Kevin, he actually starts talking about the safety stuff. I actually cut that off because I figured you probably don't want to watch a 10-minute safety brief or whatever. Now, truthfully, Kevin's are very short, whereas mine take quite a bit longer. Maybe that's because I talk too much already. But so anyway, that was one of those interesting things where the customer was kind of wanting to ask me stuff, perhaps because I wasn't running the mill. When you're running a mill, it's loud, it's busy. The customer was probably just thinking, since I'm there, but I don't like to operate that way. They're not my customer at that point, and it's not my mill, it's not my show. So anyway, that was very interesting with doing these videos with Kevin running the mill, and there are going to be several more. So just know that there's going to be several of Kevin running his mill, and I actually really enjoyed watching it, and I learned some things from Kevin. And that'll be the thing that I try to bring to you in the next several videos that I do with Kevin running his sawmill, is just kind of the stuff that I've learned, some of the stuff that he does differently than I do that I might think about doing, or things that he does that I've known about but haven't bothered to do myself. And then he was doing them and I get the chance to watch that. So just things like using side supports to flip logs or flip cants. I don't use the side supports to flip cants. I know you can do reverse rolls with them. Kevin does it. I don't. So I'm pretty sure I caught him doing it in some of my video. But I will tell you, one of the challenges I had is it was a very, very hot day, and GoPros don't function well in the heat. And so one of my GoPros, my main GoPro, actually shut down. And I got to the point where he was loading the log and then it shut down, and it did not record that entire log. Luckily, I had 3 other cameras running. My phone, the main camera that's actually my wife's camera, big digital, SLR type camera, and then the GoPro 10 and GoPro 11. So what's that? 4. So technically I had 4 other cameras running. So I had plenty of cameras, was able to put the video together, but it's very frustrating trying to film a sawmill operation and have your main camera go down and lose the sound, because it has good sound quality, and lose that overall picture view that I like to normally use. Fortunately, I had enough cameras, I was able to make that work. And if you haven't seen that, go check those out. Kevin's milled over 1 million board feet, which is not quite 4 times what I've done, but he's done a lot. Most of it in the last 2 years. So he and I were running on par up until about 2021. And then Kevin took off and just started running like mad, 5-6 days a week, like crazy. And it was interesting to talk to him about the differences in business strategy. For Kevin, if he lines up a day's worth of work, he's gone that day. He'll roll in that morning and then he's gone that evening and he's out of there. And the reason is because he's already lined up another day's job on the next day, right? So Monday he's at this location, Tuesday he's at that one. If he has a 2-day job, maybe he's Wednesday, Thursday here, then Friday at another location. When you're doing that, if the customer has more logs than you can do in that day, and you weren't aware of it, then you may be leaving with logs on the deck. And that's okay, as long as you and the customer understand that can happen. But the way I do things, I tend to mill less, so I'm not milling 5 days a week. And when I go out on a job, I'll put the whole weekend into that job. So if it's a 6-hour or a 12-hour job, doesn't really matter, because I've got the whole weekend to do that job. And that is an advantage I know that I have over somebody who's generating all their income out of running the sawmill. In my case, because I'm a busted up old jarhead, Uncle Sam pays me every month, and that really helps. Without that, I couldn't do it, what I do, because I couldn't run the mill full time. So, but if you're curious, there's a couple differences there. And he beats that mill, and I have to tell you, I think that's really a credit to Wood-Mizer. I see a lot of stuff today on Facebook where guys talk about the quality of mills and the problems they're having and everything else, and I look at some of these mills. I had a live chat going early yesterday, a coffee chat that I decided to do for those that couldn't make these evening chats. And what was interesting is that there was a gentleman on there that bought, actually there was a couple of them. One of them bought his mill that had 4,000 hours on it. And I've talked to guys and seen mills that had multiple thousands of hours on them, Wood-Mizers. And so here's Kevin's mill with 2,100 and now over 40 hours on it, almost 2,150. And he beats the heck out of that mill, and yet it keeps on ticking. It keeps on doing the job. And so it was kind of interesting to watch, because I don't get to watch, when I'm running my mill. And I've talked about it in some of my videos, look at that log, slam this mill around. When you're standing by and filming on the side and watching the mill get slammed around, it kind of gives you this different perspective. So I hope I try to bring that in my videos to you. So hopefully you kind of see that a little bit. Even when he dragged his mill in, I've never set my mill up as fast as Kevin did. He dragged that mill in, bouncing it over everything that was in there, hit the brakes, stopped, dumped it off the trailer, and let's go. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to mill this log up. And I mean, he was all business, no play, no fooling around. And so to give you an idea of what you're in for over the next several videos here is that we had these two big monster sycamores that had to be trimmed up. They had to be bucked in half and then loaded on the mill. And of course, we're only going to put the mill in one place. Ideally, you don't want to move your mill, right? So first one gets up on the mill, then we have to use my Jeep to winch the next one up to the mill. Then he's got to buck the next log and trim it all up. And then I got to drag it over for him with the Jeep and load it up and then drag the last one over, get all of that done, leave there, set up on another job site and mill up all that old dried out spalted maple that needed to get milled up as well before he could leave and head back to Coeur d'Alene. So we were rocking and rolling, or I should say Kevin was. Evan Bombardier, hey buddy, how you doing? Got the old jarhead on my head set as I scoop out my sawdust. Oh, I was like, on your headset? What? Right on. Cool, buddy. Awesome. Nothing like sawdust. Hey, I had a company reach out to me, and this might be interesting to you guys. It's not, they weren't looking to sponsor me or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. They're looking to sell me something, but it was kind of interesting. And I've heard this before. I've heard about guys doing like pressed logs with sawdust and that kind of stuff. Well, this guy has a charcoal making machine, some kind of charcoal making machine out of sawdust. And he was saying that it's the best stuff to use, that you can take all that sawdust and then I guess it burns it and compresses it into charcoal. And I told him, I said, well, I mill mostly Doug fir and ponderosa pine, just softwoods. And he said, no, it works fine. It'll work great for that too. And he was trying to ask me, well, how much can you mill? How much sawdust do you make in a day? And I'm like, I can make 2 or 3 yards of sawdust, but it's all my customers, right? Unless I'm up at the cabin. So anyway, I've been I wanted to try to find out more about that operation. So if you guys are interested, drop it in the comments or the chat below and let me know. And I'll try to find out a little bit more about that and share it with you guys. Just kind of an interesting thing, right? I've met people that had the log making, their log presses or whatever you call them. Basically, you take your sawdust, put it all in a pipe, compress it all, make logs out of it for like campfires or fire, wood stoves or whatever. But this one was for charcoal, so that was kind of a different sort of thing. It was kind of interesting. And then so anyway, channel updates. So we've got several videos I'm working on now. I still have to fix my mill, and I've got to finish my laser. So I mentioned it in a couple of videos recently, and even in the past. I've got some back trouble, and honestly, most of it due to something not so glorious in the Marine Corps. You guys talk about military injuries. The best ones, are when you got them in the war zone. Well, mine was getting promoted in Morocco, on the beaches of Morocco. Actually, my worst injuries probably. I had 5 guys jump on me at one point, and I landed on my right shoulder, and it popped out my collarbone right here at the SC joint. And they didn't really reset it. They just kind of wrapped me up in a sling and said, there you go. Well, if you know dumb jarheads, then we tend to be a little hard-headed, a little pig-headed. And the next day, when everybody got up for PT, and of course I got up and got dressed as well, one of the troops, it was a corporal, and one of the troops said, Corporal McVeigh, you're just trying to get out of PT today. You're not wearing your sling. And of course, being a dumb jarhead, I said, yeah, whatever. And I took it off and threw it away and said, let's go, push-ups. And of course, ever since then, I've got a permanently separated SC joint here. Well, what I didn't know is that they also injured 2 discs in my neck and others in my back and lower back. So we know when you get these injuries when you're young, and most of my viewers are 55 and up, but those all come back to haunt you later. Yeah, well, that's what I get now. So anyway, I had a herniated disc, got the shot. It really has worked great, but I had so much stuff pile up over all this time that I couldn't do anything because I could barely walk, that I did not get to my mill today. I did get to do some other things that were on the list. We're taking the grandkids camping next weekend. And if you've seen my other channel that's really small, I don't do much with, I'm into Jeep stuff. and I had to get the rooftop tent on the Jeep and get it out of the driveway, out of the garage, which was going to be a challenge because with the original suspension on the Jeep and the 35s, I could just barely get the Jeep out of the garage with the rooftop tent on. Then I put the metal cloak 2.5-inch lift on. Can't get the Jeep and the tent out of the garage. So I had to remount the tent in a different way. And so anyway, got that done, got several things done on the Jeep, lots of yard work, that kind of stuff. Did not get to the sawmill. That was my plan today. But my mom, who's 83, bless her heart, she lives about half an hour from me, and she needed some stuff done at her house too. And now that I'm walking, I had to get over there and take care of that for mom. And so we got that done. So no sawmill fixes, but I'm going to have to try and get all the stuff together this week and try to do it during the week. Now that we're in the summer, it's lighter out. Summer here, Tri-Cities, if it's May, it's summer. We're already June. That means 90s all the time from here on until September. If we can get into the 80s, that's good. And it's actually, I think it was 87 most of today, and then it hit 90. But so anyway, we got to do all that because we're taking the grandkids camping next weekend. So no sawmilling. I'll be doing the camping instead. So anyway, that's life of a busted up old jarhead, right? Working, trying to get things done, and just didn't get to the sawmill. But I will. Then I have to get the sawmill back up to the cabin, to our off-grid cabin up north, and get that log deck milled up. That's got to get done. I hate milling in the middle of summer up there because I find I get more losses when I'm drying lumber in the heat of the summer than I do any other time of the year, right? I can mill in January, and in 2 months my lumber is nice and dry. It's perfect. I can mill in November, September. I can mill in June. But if I mill in August, I'm going to lose at least 10% more lumber because it's harder to control the drying process. You wouldn't think so, right? You think, oh, it's hot out, it's going to be great. It doesn't seem to work that way for whatever reason. And I have had guys tell me it's best to try and dry, if you're going to do it in the summer, try to dry it down near a creek somewhere where there's more moisture in the air, but you still got air movement. And I think it's because if you get direct high temperature, super dry heat on a stack and sticker, bunch of lumber, it just sucks too much moisture out too fast. And unlike a kiln, it's not controlled, and you just take more losses. So I don't know if anybody here has experienced that kind of thing, but if you have, drop it down in the chat. Tell me what you think. That's just the experience I've had. So I don't like to mill here come mid-July through into September. It's just so dry. I know it sounds crazy. For those of you that don't live in Washington State, you've probably heard me say we're on the Everbrown side of the Washington State. Everybody thinks of Washington State as this rainy, green Pacific Northwest. Yeah, that's only like a third of the state. The rest of the state is almost like Nevada. Not quite that dry, but we are dry. Like where I'm at right now, we get between 7 and 8 inches of rain a year. That's it. 7 to 8. That's rattlesnakes, sagebrush, and tumbleweeds. That's where I'm at. And what am I milling, right? Sagebrush? No. But I have to drag my mill out to, the arid pine forest, like where our cabin is or something like that. And it's very hot, very dry, just not good to mill. Plus, with the potential for forest fires, everybody's heard about them. It's the way things are. But, I don't want to be out there, on some mountaintop somewhere in the middle of fire season with my $40,000 sawmill and my $100,000 truck and camper. So I don't mill that time of year. And I know that guys like Kevin do. He mills year round. He mills every time he can because that's the only income he's got, right? That's his business. And he has other things. He's got, I think he might have a bulldozer and an excavator and dump truck. So he can do dirt work and that kind of stuff. But and I think one of the things to consider if you're thinking about making money with your sawmill, and it's not just a second income or a retirement income like for me, if it's going to be a sole source of income, it's really important to understand, the market changes and that you've got to diversify as much as possible. And we had that panel of, I think, 5 or 6 Sawyers with Two Brothers Outdoors and Mike Wilson at Wilson Forest Lands. We had Ben at Dusty Ranch, and who else did we have? Oh gosh, we had John Davidson. I want to call you Davies, John. I'm sorry, I don't know why I do that. Davidson's All Natural Gym, and then Rick and Tim at Two Brothers Outdoors. All of us together talking about this. and I think it was really good conversation, and it kind of demonstrates how you might be cranking out 2x4s this year. Next year you might be doing all live edge, or you might be doing 6x6s for timber framing. So you've got to be flexible not only in what you're milling, but what you're going to sell. If you're going to sell something, right? If you're in the business to try to mill to sell, then you've got to find your niche, you got to find the customers, but you also got to understand they can change. So I met a guy that runs an LT40 in La Grande, Oregon, and he told me that he milled 1,000 board feet a day, 5 days a week. That's all he did. And I'm thinking, at the time, before I had my LT40, because I had an LT10 at the time, I thought, wow, what are you going to do after the first 2 hours of the day? Funny thing is when you're milling alone on an LT40, you don't mill that fast, right? I mean, I might mill 150 to 200, 250 would be amazing if I got that in an hour, frankly. And I have, but you're really moving if you're going to do that by yourself, right? Without heavy equipment and everything else. So, I mean, he was just taking his time, doing 1,000 board feet a day, no problem, right? 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, get her done. But he didn't even stack and sticker the lumber. He was making true dimension 2x6, rough cut. And I asked him, don't you stack and sticker? And he said, why? No, it won't be on my lot long enough. When I mill it, I put it in a unit of lumber, and the ranchers come pick it up that day or the next day. So he had that niche, right? He didn't have to look for customers. He already had his customers. He had it planned out how much he had to mill every day. That's all he had to do. And but what if that market changes, right? Then you've got to be able to change with that, or you might have to do something else. I have a tractor with a bunch of implements, and I thought, gosh, if I couldn't make money running my mill, I might be able to switch and run the tractor to make some money that way while I'm waiting on more mill work to come in, and that's something you have to think about. So, and I am waiting for questions, so feel free to pop them out there. I'm just going to talk about the things that I have on the top of my mind while I'm waiting for questions to answer. Have you ever seen this? A rock buried inside a log. um, In the bark, yes. Deep, deep into the log, only when the rats can get it in there. Mm. Now, I know that back east, where you've got a lot of hardwoods, guys have found all kinds of amazing things. Guys have found like muskets buried in logs, right? Because you've got a fork or something. Some guy sets his musket in there. Somebody shoots him. He dies. It's still sitting there. Everybody forgets about it. And 150 years later, somebody cuts that tree down, or it falls down in a windstorm, and somebody tries to mill it up, and the only thing left is that, the main breech assembly or something. Maybe it was a pistol, right? And it's literally, the tree has just grown around it and kept on going. So I've actually seen that. I've seen knives, axes, not myself personally, but I've seen it actually on forestry forum, guys posting pictures. um, I personally have found bullets, barbed wire staples, barbed wire, cable, lots and lots of nails, spikes. you know, I've had spikes in the center of a 28-inch ponderosa pine. Now you have to think about that for a minute. How the heck do you have a spike in the middle of a 100-year-old tree? Well, somebody put it there almost 100 years ago, for whatever reason. Maybe they were nailing up some barbed wire and forgot about it. I don't know. There was no barbed wire attached to it. So maybe they put a sign on it, keep out. I don't know. But it was literally in the heart of that 28-inch or 30-inch diameter log. In one of my video series, and I need to name all the playlists. I'm working on that. But there's a video that's currently still running around. It's like how to cut wider or something like that on your LT40, and I was cutting like 27.5-inch slabs. It's that series of videos where I actually cut a nail right in the center of that log. It was unbelievable. So a rock, I've seen rock buried in the bark, absolutely in the bark, and like I said, rats. So rats, especially like a pack rat, they'll, if there's a hole in a tree and it's a bit hollow, they make a nest in there. They'll put all kinds of crap in there. You'll know the hole's there, but if you don't dig it completely out, you're in trouble. So in a video I titled, I think I on the thumbnail I said I don't like spiders and snakes. If you watched that video, you noticed in the very beginning, I stuck my arm down the center of the log, right up into the center of the log, trying to pull stuff out of that log just in case some rats had gotten in there and, put some small wrenches or something in there, and you know, right in the middle of a 20-inch ash. Holy cow! So anyway, that spiders and snakes video, that's what that was. That I didn't really talk about it in the video a whole lot, but sometimes I'll do that. I'll try to key some thought there for myself more than anything else. But you know, you're sticking your arm up to the elbow inside of a log in rattlesnake country, you might get a surprise. We also have black widows here, maybe even brown recluse. I can't remember, but I think there are some here. You know, putting your arm in a tree like that, you better hope, right? So, but if you found a rock right in the middle of a 20-inch solid ash log, 3 inches in diameter, the rock was 3 inches in diameter, then that's then I'm wondering, it's not a cannonball. I mean, you know, they used to make cannonballs out of rock, by the way, but usually out of softer rock like soapstone or there was some kind of basaltic rock on the Azores or something like that. They made it for, hey, 30 minutes late, not too bad, no problem, John. Hey, appreciate you being here. But anyway, so a rock right in the middle, if it's not a cannonball, the only thing I can think of is when you get and I can never remember what it's called. It's when two trees grow together. It's like an occlusion or something like that. I can't remember. I did a video on a maple that had one tree growing inside of it, and they'd cut that one off. And so you had this two square cut. You had like a board inside of a board. It was kind of weird. But so it makes me wonder if it's possible that rock was captured by, sometimes three trees can grow together. So if you had multiple hearts, tell me that, if you had multiple hearts or not. If it was a single heart, you had a 3-inch diameter rock, then I want to know if that rock was round, because then that might be a cannonball. But other than that, no, that sounds pretty wild. I don't doubt it, though. I don't doubt it at all. I've seen all kinds of crazy things in the middle of what the heck is going on with my phone? My phone's sitting here on over there. I've seen all kinds of crazy things in the middle of logs. So, oh, hey, there we go. Mike Wilson's here too. I'm part of the 30-minute late club. You know why? Because it's 5:30. So I was messing with you. No, first of all, I should tell everybody, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you guys being here. I love it. I don't really have a set time for lives yet. I know I've done a lot of them, and you'd think I'd nail down the time and say, that's it, that's when I'm going to do them. But part of, like yesterday, I did one at 6 a.m. because I wanted to see that. So there was some overseas viewers that had basically said, hey, I'd love to do it, but you're doing them when I'm asleep, so I can't do it. So I tried to do it in the morning. Unfortunately, I had set it as unlisted and not public, and so nobody actually knew about it. Oops. So I had to shut that one down, start over with it public, and well, we got about a dozen or so people, I think, at most, maybe 5 or 6 most of the time. Had a good chat anyway. It was fun. John was there. Thank you for being there, John. So anyway, my normal, time is usually 5:30. So I get it. If you saw that this thing was coming out, you probably thought 5:30. He always does them at 5:30, right? No. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I debate whether I should do them at 5:30 every day, and I've done some polls. I'll do some more, and I'd like to hear down in the chat. Drop your comments down, your own thoughts. I know I've got a lot of viewers on the East Coast, so and I'll tell you, the vast majority of my viewers are in the U.S. and Canada, but I do have a lot in Germany and Australia, Russia, the Ukraine. It's amazing, all over the world. So I often try to think about, well, what. I do these obviously on Sunday nights because it works for me, but I always want to know if there's a better time that works better for people. I'll try to figure out if I can't work those in. But for now, I decided to switch to 5 from 5:30 just to make it a little easier for us on a Sunday, because I am still working until July 20th. So on July 20th, my contract's up, and I won't be working again. So then it could be different, but I doubt it. This is a good time, and I think I may try to do it at 5. So West Coast guys, let me know. Otherwise, middle of the country, East, let me know. If 5, that's 8 p.m. Eastern. If that works for you, if that's too late, let me know. But I was thinking, Rick and Tim probably aren't in bed at 8, maybe at 8:15. Oh, maybe Andy's in bed at 8. I don't know. Anyway, those are Rick and Tim is Two Brothers Outdoors, and Andy and Paul, I think, is Southern Adirondack Outdoors. That's a mouthful. Anyway, so while I'm waiting for questions, again, talk about anything. I'll answer any questions you have. So drop them down in the chat below. I'm happy to answer them. One of the things I was thinking about today a little bit is on Facebook. I see this a lot. I don't see it anywhere else, but I see, hey, Desert Hobo, nice to see you there. It all depends on if the kids are cooperating or not, right? Hey, anyway, corporal punishment, right? Kids, the old jarhead's on. You're going to bed, or they have to watch. You can make them watch, right? But W2, I'm here late too. Had to wash the sawdust out of my ears. Windy today. South Dakota. That's a state I haven't been to yet, but I need to get there one of these days, and I plan on it. Actually, I've often joked about taking the Old Jarhead Sawdust Roadshow on the road. I'll just hook the mill up behind the camper and head east, do the whole loop or something. Wouldn't that be fun? Wife says I'm banned from YouTube now. don't no, tell her no. It's important. It's important business right now. So I was going to talk about Facebook. Well, not about Facebook, but one of the things that I see a lot, I was just hauling a tree and just got home. Have you ever milled any elm logs? No, I have not milled elm. I know about elm, and elm, I'm going to not say that it sucks. Elm, from all the guys I've talked to that do a lot of elm, tell me the same thing. It moves a ton. So mill it over, so that you can plane it down once it's dry, and strap it, weight it, do everything you can, quarter saw if you can. Elm is apparently like sycamore can be that way. Sycamore mills soft, but it's best quarter sawn, and it can move. So a lot of those, I call them soft hardwoods, are kind of like that. The poplars, that kind of thing, they tend to move a lot. But I mean, I've done walnut that's moved a lot too. So it just depends. But elm is one of those that can turn into a canoe when you mill it. So just be aware. I mean, it stinks too. That's what I've heard also. But I mean, for me, where I live and where I mill, it's primarily Doug fir and ponderosa pine, but a fair amount of cedar if I go in the right direction, right? If I'm going into North Idaho, up above Spokane, the North Spokane Valley area, I can mill a lot of cedar up there. But you would think Pacific Northwest, right? I've got cedar and Doug fir. No, because again, I'm in that arid pine forest part of the state. So predominantly tamarack, ponderosa pine. We do have aspen. I have not milled it. I've not heard great things about it, although I do know people make furniture out of aspen, and I've got some beautiful aspen trees that are on somebody else's property. I would love to see those fall down so I could try them out. But mostly I do softwoods. The vast majority of it, I get to play with the hardwoods. Usually the black locust, black walnut, English walnut occasionally, a little bit of apple now and then. And I have done birch. I had a customer with an elm log that I actually decide I really don't want to do. The reason, though, isn't because it's elm. I'd be happy to do it. It's that it's in a carport up a hill in a bad place, and it needs to be quartered up with a chainsaw. And I have an aversion to running a chainsaw under a roof. So, little story for you. When I was 14, I lived in a place called Hazelton, British Columbia. Hazelton is a whole heck of a long ways north. It's about 1,000 miles north of here. You can see the midnight sun on the summer solstice in Hazelton if you get up on a hill, right? When I was up there, I had a friend who was running a chainsaw. I wasn't there, but he was bucking firewood in their woodshed. The chain broke, hit the ceiling above him, and then came down and hit him right in the shoulder and almost cut him in half. He survived. They got him to a hospital, stitched him up. He spent, I want to say, at least 6 months, maybe a year in the hospital. This was an awful long time ago. We're talking over 40 years ago. He did actually end up surviving, but he later committed suicide. He just couldn't function anymore. So it was terrible, terrible story. I had another friend killed by a chainsaw, not under a roof, but and chainsaws, guys, I know I do it. I run chainsaws without my chaps too sometimes, or without headgear on. I shouldn't do that. I actually had a friend killed who was his name was Kenny, older gentleman. He was actually a friend of my dad's, but I knew him really well. He was a logging truck driver. I grew up in logging country, and he was out on a landing. They loaded up his truck, and there was a new landing guy running a saw, bucking limbs off the logs. And Kenny was behind him, and he was holding one of those limbs, and that big saw bucked, went straight backwards, hit Kenny in the neck, game over. So I have a great deal of respect for chainsaws. I know I don't wear chaps all the time. I do have new composite boots though, and I'm wondering how those are going to do. But I do wear chaps a lot. It's just sometimes I'm like anybody else, right? Grab the saw, buck this real quick, and don't worry about it. And I know better, but I won't do it in a carport. I'm not going to do it with a roof over my head with a chainsaw. Not going to happen. So anyway, I decided I'm not going to quarter that log up there. And the next only place to quarter is if we dragged it out of his carport down onto the city road, and then I quartered it down on the road, and I'd have to run my chainsaw down on the city street, or not my chainsaw, my sawmill. And I have done that before when I was new to milling. But honestly, I don't like the idea of doing it today because I don't need the local PD coming by and getting upset because I'm running a saw in the middle of a city street, on a sidewalk. They don't always like that. So, all right. What do we got here? Evan, I just got a nice load of elm and black walnut. Nice. Not sure what to do with them since I almost only cut softwoods for construction, like me, buddy. Might have to get some 7-inch, number 7-degree blades. Yeah, actually, I like 4s for wide cuts and hardwoods. You could do 7s for sure, but 7s are good all around, better than 10s in my opinion, though I know like Craig over at Kilted Sawyer, he really likes 10s. I'm personally don't. Somebody else I talked to really likes 10s and they don't like the 7s. I like 7s a lot, and I like 4s. 4s are really good for hardwoods. The only thing with 4s is when they dull real fast. So you kind of notice it, and you can't mill as fast with the 4s. You got to dial her back a little bit. It's not like the 7s. 7s, you can rock and roll with 7s, right? They do really well. But I'll tell you with the elm, mill it thick. Everything I've read, everything I've talked to guys on the forums, it moves a lot. So if you want to do an 1.25 countertop, mill that sucker at 9/4. So that's something to consider. And you could get on places like Forestry Forum. They're really wealth of knowledge there. Wood Web, whatever, places like that too. And look it up. But elm is one of those that you just got to watch for that movement. Let's see, but definitely consider 7-degree bands, especially if you're running a LT35 or an LT40 with a 25, 26 horse motor. That's the bottom end probably for running those. But I know some of the Wood Miser guys swear even 19 horse motors can run those 7s. 36-inch white oak log today and had to chainsaw the edges a bit. Made some beautiful live edge slabs with it, crotch wood on it. Oh, nice. Very nice. 36 inches. So you must not be running an LT40? I'm curious. You must be running, I'm guessing LT35 or LT15 maybe. Let me know, W. I need to know what mill you're running, because if it's 36 inches in an LT40, LX150. So the LX150, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of the new version of the LT10, right? I think they maxed that at 24-inch log. Maybe not, but I think yours is like a 10 horse or 14 horse motor, 2 tracks on the ground. I want to say the LX150 is the new LT10. And in that case, yeah, absolutely. That with 36 inches would push that mill, if I'm thinking the right mill. But did you try gun barreling it? That's the question I have. And also, holy cow, kudos to you. 36 inch on a manual mill on the ground. Woo! You must have some big cant hooks or a little bit of extra arm strength to pull that sucker over. But let's see. John says if you ever go on the road with the camper and the sawmill, you're welcome to plug into my electric for as many days as you want to stay. Sounds like a plan, John. And you're Ohio, right? Illinois, somewhere over there. You're in the middle of the country, right? Central time, I think you said. I really well. First of all, the Arrowhead Woodsman. If you ever see him in the chat, excuse me, I don't know what I was into today, but it's like I got a dry throat. It's the grass from mowing the lawn, probably. Good Lord. Illinois. Okay. Sorry, guys. This is terrible. I got something in my throat. It's not COVID. Don't worry. I already had that. All right. Right on. Doing a live and you're choking to death. Everybody's waiting to see if I can get past that choking. All right. Oh, good Lord. All right. Oh, rock is in an ash tree. Okay, hang on. I want to see this. I think you just sent me a picture here. Not enough bourbon. Yes, not enough bourbon. Absolutely. Wait, I think I just got a picture sent to me. Daryl LeBlanc. Yep. Okay, here we go. We're going to see this picture, guys. I can't share it with you, though. I'm going to see this picture first. See what we got here. What the? Wait, you cut that. You ain't cutting rocks with a sawmill blade, buddy. I don't think that's rock. Man, all you guys are watching this going, wait a minute, I can't see what you can see. I wish there was a way to show you this. That's not rock. Can't be. That's got to be lead. I don't know, buddy. All right, I got to tell you, folks, if there was a way for me to show you this picture, I would. And if Daryl lets me post it on my channel, I'll post it on the channel for you because that's interesting. It looks like you cut it. Sheared the teeth right off. Yeah, but it looks flat. It looks like you cut it. So that's crazy. Go ahead and post. Okay, here. You know what I'm gonna do, guys? I'm gonna post this here for you on my YouTube page, right? So if you go to, not yet, just bear with me here. Let me get this picture saved. And then as soon as I save it, I'm going to post it. And I want you guys to go look at this. We're going to save this file. And I'm going to save it to pictures. So bear with me here. Rock in ash tree. Okay, we're going to post this. And I'm going to give you the 3, 2, 1 here. Rock in ash tree. Let's see how that shows up. Daryl, can I put your name on there? Or do you want me to put Caper Country? I can put Caper Country. Caper, if I can spell it. Caper Country. Okay, hang on, guys. Are you on my channel? Caper Country. Bang, just posted it. There you go. All right, go check that out. That's too flat, buddy. No, I've never seen a sawmill cut a flat rock. All right, so if you guys, if you go to, you should be able to do this at the same time. I'm gonna I'll post this link in the chat for you too, just in case. So there you go. So if you go to the my community tab, I always post like the new videos coming out. I post my polls in there. You've probably seen them. You go there, you'll see that picture that he just sent me. It looks like a rock. Absolutely looks like a rock, but it's cut. And so whenever, here's what I'm going to tell you, Daryl. When I run into rock, my mill head stops. Done. Game over. Shut her down. It doesn't even move. I've hit rocks. I've hit pebbles that aren't more than an inch or so in bark. And when I hit that pebble, it's like hitting a brick wall. Done. Shut her down. She just stops. Now, I have done it where it's been able to glance over it, but it takes out enough teeth that it starts to just dive, right? Dive or go up. And you know right away, right? You'll hear that zing, and then she starts heading south on you. Shut her down, pull her out, which obviously you did, but you cut into it. It looks like you cut into it at least an inch, inch and a half. So I don't know. So I want to know, guys. Go over to that community page and look. That's a how deep's that cut? I'm guessing that's inch and a half, 2 inches deep. Beautiful wood, but that's that's something else right there. I'm not even sure. It's kind of square. I It almost makes me wonder if it's like an isolator or something. Oh, you were stupid enough to hit it with the second blade. Oh, good Lord. All right, W. It's got the 24 horse. Oh, Yamaha diesel. Oh, okay, you got the diesel. LT15 on steroids. Okay, well, if you've got that, then 36 inches, still manual mill, tough. Absolutely. So, yeah, you must be, yeah, you've got a big cut. You got lots of power. That's more power than I've got, really. I mean, a 26 horse Kohler gas motor does not compare to a 24 horse diesel. Unless you're running the 25 diesel, but if you're running or the 25 gas, or even still, that's bigger than an LT15. Yeah, that's absolutely bigger. Sandstone and cedar. We figured it was washed into the tree bark during a gully washer. Sandstone, yes, I could see that. Okay, that makes sense. Caper Country, you're East Coast, Nova Scotia. Is that right? Money Pit area, maybe. I don't think you've got sandstone out there. Granite, maybe, but not sandstone, and you ain't cutting granite. But yeah, sandstone, you might be able to do it with sandstone, I suppose. That band is gone. So it's probably the second one. Oops. All right. Where are we at? Any other questions right here? So, and I'm waiting to see what other people see. If you go to that community tab, let me know. Take a look at that. See what you think it is. That's pretty crazy. So, all right. While I'm waiting for questions, what time we got? Oh, we're doing pretty good. Something I was thinking about. I see a lot on Facebook where guys go in and they post, "Hey, what are you guys getting for? I got I got some 6/4 white oak, 18 inches wide. What are you selling it for?" And I'm thinking, it's good to do market research. You got to do market research. But I hope those guys are not trying to price what they're selling their lumber from off those prices. And I know when I first started, I struggled a little bit with pricing myself. And after a while, I realized I was thinking about it totally wrong, because I had to realize, even with my little LT10 on a trailer, I thought I can't charge, X amount, because, that's too much. But in 2013, I was charging 65 an hour to start on my LT10. And I know guys today are charging like, $40, $50 an hour on their LT40s. And I'm thinking, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? I'm not. I mean, you can charge whatever you want. But when I see guys come in and say, "What do you charge? What do you charge?" I'm always hopeful that they're just doing market research, that they understand that your worth is more than just, a couple bucks an hour. I always try to tell everybody, if you want to get $20 an hour, if that's the wage you want to earn on your sawmill, then you got to charge 60 at a minimum. And if you want to be able to make 30, which with inflation, $30 an hour today isn't exactly, you're not going to get rich. You're going to do okay, but you're not making any, you're not getting rich. And then you better be milling, 40 hours a week. If you want $30 an hour, you got to charge 90. It's triple whatever it is you want for your income as a base rule of thumb starting point, because you've got to account for Uncle Sam, because one day Uncle Sam's going to get his cut, and they want more and more all the time. So, you've got to think of it as, I'm going to have to pay the tax man. Yes, I can write off the cost of buying my mill, buying all of my equipment and everything else to build my business. You could write all those off, and you may not pay taxes for the first couple of years that you own your business, or 2-3 years or whatever. You may not pay any taxes, but you're going to have to at some point. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to have to replace the bearings on your band wheels. You're going to have to replace the bearings on the head, especially the lowers. I'm finding lowers seem to go more than the uppers do. You're going to have to get a new alternator. You're going to have to do maintenance. And I mentioned it in my last video with Kevin out here, just beating the crap out of his mill. But if you're out there dragging your mill out there, right, you've got to get there, get her done, and get home, because you're not messing around, right? You don't, unless you're like me and you have a little bit of leeway because you're a busted up old whatever and you can't do it full time. That's a little different. But even then, you still got to account for the maintenance. So if you go out on a job and you only charge what you need to make plus Uncle Sam, and the mill breaks, you're SOL. So you've got to make enough to put maintenance money in the bank. You got to pay for fuel, bands. I mean, I know guys, they say, well, I've got, 15 bands. How many should I have? And I go 75, and they look at me like I'm crazy. And I laugh. I'm like, if you don't have at least 75 bands, you're asking for trouble. So how many of you sent bands in last year to get them sharpened up? Maybe you sharpen your own now, but if you don't, if you use Resharp like I do, and you send your bands in to get them resharped, and they tell you you're 6 weeks out, what are you going to do if you run through 15 bands a week and you've got 45? 2 weeks later, you're going to be down for 4 more weeks. Can't run that way. So those, your hourly rate is going to have to pay for that. Whether you're billing by the board foot or whether you're billing by the hour, you need more bands. You need cant hooks. You need chainsaws. You're going to break a chainsaw. I don't know anybody that's run a chainsaw professionally that hasn't broken a chainsaw. Happens, right? So I was thinking about that, and I'd like to hear your thoughts down. Drop her down in the bottom there in the chat for me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But I see these guys always, and it's okay to ask. Do ask. Asking is good. I just hope that when they ask, it's market research is what I call it. It's not, oh, it's $1.50 a board foot. Okay, I'll charge $1.50 board foot. What if I'm selling it for $10 a board foot and I'm selling all I can make, and somebody else says $1.50 a board foot? Well, you just lost $8.50 a board foot that you could have been getting because somebody else said that's what they're doing. And I actually have people that have milled for 20 years still say they're getting $45 an hour on their sawmill. And I go, okay, well, I'm charging 100 and I'm ready to bump my price to 125. 125 is still a good deal. Heck of a deal. Because it's not just running a sawmill. I dragged my sawmill 200 miles down there. Kevin came down here from Coeur d'Alene, which is 3 hours away, right? That's 210 miles approximately. So he's got 210 miles to drive all the way down here. That's 3 hours of his time, not including the 4 hours he spent getting ready to go, making sure you got fuel, making sure you got your tools, not forgetting this or that or whatever, right? His air conditioning was broken in his truck. And by the way, we got up to like 99 degrees that day. Luckily, at the end of all the milling, we just had him come back here and sit in air conditioning for a couple hours and BS. But he needed to fix his air conditioning. You got to pay for that. And so that's one thing I'm always trying to encourage people to do, is really look at your pricing. John Davidson's All Natural Gym, he's done some videos on that. They're really good on breakdowns of what it costs him to run his mill. And I think that's really good to do. I think it's good to do that kind of market research, but also figure out what you need to make and understand that Uncle Sam wants their cut, and understand that you're going to want to fix your mill. You're going to need to buy more bands and all that kind of stuff. So rant over. I'll get off that soapbox. But if you have questions, drop them in the chat down below and let me know. And, I'm waiting to see what you all think of that rock. I've still got W saying that he's cut through sandstone and cedar, but nobody else has told me what they think that is. So I don't know, Daryl. I'm not hearing it. John, did you go take a look? I got 10 people on here. If you're on here and you haven't, and you're not sure what I'm talking about, look in the chat. And in the chat, you'll see I posted a link, and it's just to my community tab on my YouTube page. And so if you haven't gone to the community tab, just go to YouTube on another browser or whatever, or another tab, and pull up the community tab on my page. I put a picture there that Daryl Caper Country sent me of what he thought was a rock that he cut with his mill. Go look. I mean, it destroyed the band, but he cut into that thing a couple inches, it looks like. Any rock I've ever done has stopped my mill dead. So go look at that. It's kind of square looking too. So I think it's something else. Check it out. Let me know what you think it is. Let's see. Be willing. Spare parts can be expensive. It's always good to have a supply of the common wear items on hand. Yes. Kevin was telling me he carries $2,000 worth of spare parts in his truck on his milling jobs. So the difference between somebody like Kevin and me is that Kevin mills 5 days a week or six sometimes, and it's job, 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 and he's done. So when he gets out on a job, he doesn't have time to mess around, can't fix his mill and come back later. He's got to fix it and get the job done so he can get to the next job. So if you're in those shoes, yeah, you better. But I talked to guys that could practically completely rebuild their mills. So there's guys on Forestry Forum, guys like Peter. I know Magic Man's rebuilt his mill. All kinds of guys that run full time. That's what they do. They earn their living running their mill solely. They've got thousands of dollars in spare parts. How do you pay for those, right? So John says, you have to account for the truck to pull the mill. Yes. All the maintenance on the truck. Yes. The insurance. And if you really want to get down to it, you have to replace your blue jeans. Honest to God, you're absolutely right. Boots, right? Boots. I will tell you guys, I may be showing a pair of boots here pretty soon. If you're on my Facebook page, you've seen it already. I had Brent send me a pair of boots. No obligations. Do whatever I want. Don't care. Have them, destroy them, do whatever I want with them. Tell you what I think. So I may be doing that. I will let you know what I think. I destroy boots. I destroy boots in 6 weeks or 6 months, right? If it's cheap, like a Timberland, $160 boot, I'll destroy that boot in 6 months. So I'm going to find out. But yes, you got to buy t-shirts. How many of you bought a nice orange t-shirt? Right? Not a cheapo one, but I'm talking, the Carhartt shirts, right? And you got your nice orange, bright orange, because orange is a good color around an orange sawmill, and people can see you, which is good, right? And you milled ponderosa pine, and now you've got brown sap stains all over your shirt, and all of your shirts look like that. And your wife's mad at you because it doesn't rinse out, and you don't have any nice shirts to take her out to, Bob's Burgers for something to eat later. It's crazy. It's kind of silly, right? I mean, we laugh about it, but it's true. John's absolutely right. You're going to need jeans. You're going to wear them out. You're going to destroy them. And I'm terrible. I'm one of the worst. I'll admit it. I will be, nice, fresh t-shirt and jeans on. And, I could just run a couple more logs through the mill. Now they're full of sap. So absolutely. This week I'll dig it out and let you know. Yes, absolutely. Dig it out. Let me know. I want to know. And anybody else, if you haven't gone and looked, go to my YouTube. I'm not trying to chase everybody my YouTube page. You're already here in my live. I don't have to do that. I mean, honestly, right? Let's be honest. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Go to my community page and look at the picture of that rock. If you don't do it during the live, that's okay. Do it afterwards. Check it out. It's pretty weird. I mean, I'm looking at it going, I don't know how you cut a rock. Maybe sandstone, but what the heck is it? I want to know. So let's see. Evan Bombardier, 125 is fair, especially in Washington State. I agree. I will tell you that 10 years ago, when I was doing my own market research, there was a guy out of Klamath Falls in Southern Oregon that if he traveled with his LT70, he charged $125 an hour. That was 10 years ago. And I don't care that an LT70 is higher production than an LT40 or a 15 or a 35 or a 10 or anything else. Back then, I didn't know better. Today, I do. Because you're not just selling, dragging your sawmill somewhere. You're selling, dragging your sawmill somewhere, right? A lot of guys think of it as, well, I'm just running my sawmill. No, you're going to take your sawmill, haul it down the road where you're risking the chance that some crazy. I heard a story yesterday day before, recently, I can't remember when now, where a guy had a brand new Wood-Mizer sawmill. The person I was talking to didn't know which one it was. All he knew it was a really orange, nice sawmill cruising down the road. Someone T-boned the sawmill, completely destroyed it. So you're dragging, you've got a truck, and I don't care if you got a $20,000 truck or $100,000 truck. You've got a truck, you've got tools, you got your sawmill. What you're selling those people is that you're willing to take your sawmill and go out to where they are and bring your experience and your knowledge, hopefully, milling for yourself and others successfully to their location to mill up their logs for them and give them the best lumber you can at the best price by doing it quickly and efficiently and producing a good product. That's what you're selling them. You're not just selling them sawdust. You're not just selling them boards. You're not just selling them that you're some guy running your sawmill. You're doing all of those things. And I know a lot of guys, I've had a lot of guys comment that it's one of the hardest things for them to realize. And I'm always telling them, don't sell yourself short. You're the guy who's going to end up like me with the herniated disc in his back. What pays for that? And that's something we all have to think about, right? You're going to hurt yourself. What happens then? You're self-employed. You've got to earn enough to pay for all those things, including those new jeans that John mentioned. The cut was not lead. My opinion, I could go with sandstone or soma, some sort of soft stone. Does not look like metal. Yeah, well, if you don't think it's lead, I mean, sandstone, that's a good idea. So my loves it when my t-shirts stick together in the dryer. Is she cutting you off on the bourbon too? You got to get one of these. You see, then she won't mind. Uh-oh, someone's telling me that it's 6 o'clock. It's maybe my wife yelling at me saying, I thought you said. Oh, no, it's Michael Cuneo. This is a customer of mine. 52-inch, 42-foot oak he had to get cut down so he could mill it. Nice. I'm going to check that out soon. Maybe I'll get to share that one with you guys. 52-inch. I had a customer. You know what? If you're in Washington State or Oregon or Idaho, I had a potential, well, I won't say a customer. I had somebody reach out to me who has some sycamore that's between 6 and 8 feet wide and 8 feet long. And I'm going, well, first of all, I don't sell lumber. So there's not much value for me other than I love having big, wide slabs to work with. But 6 feet wide? I need one of those WM1000s to run that, right? 6 feet wide. I guess you could run it with like 105 cc still with a big, huge, long bar. I did see a guy that had a Husky with I want to say he said it was 120 cc's or something crazy like that. Maybe it was a 105, but he only had a 5-foot bar, 6-foot wide log. Well, you could do what I did, right? I guess if you had a full, maybe 42-inch bar, you're going to lose 6 inches for the slabber attachment. You could do that with skip teeth and cut, 3 feet into the log like I quartered up that big maple. But I wouldn't even do that without a bigger saw, right? I'm not going to do that with a 72 cc saw. You're going to need a 90 plus saw to cut 3 feet into a log like that and quarter it up. Let's see. Blue Collar Voices. Hey, nice to see you, buddy. Is your back injury from working while sawmilling? No, my back injury is from having 5 Marines jump on me for fun in Morocco in 1988, December. I want to say December 2nd of 1988. I was meritoriously promoted to corporal, and after so the way we used to promote people in the Marine Corps, I hear they're not allowed to do these things now. It's called pinning. So in the Marine Corps, when you become any rank, you get any rank, you get your stripes pinned on. And if you do it in what we call the utility uniforms, which is camouflage uniform, right? And they put it on your collars. So what they would do, the stripes are pins. They've got, nice sharp pins on the back, and then you put the little caps on them to hold them in place, the little keepers on the back. So what they would do is they leave the keepers off and they would fit them onto the collars, And then they would take their fists and go thunk like that and drive the pins right into your chest like that, right? It's not that bad. But if you got promoted in your alphas, or which is the full, green dress uniform, or your Charlies, which would be the short sleeve tan shirt with the green pants, then they're on your shoulder. So the way they do that is they line up all of the higher ranking guys, all the guys senior to you, right? So let's say you're getting promoted to Lance Corporal, then all Lance Corporals who are already Lance Corporals and above line up, and then you have to walk down the line of Lance Corporals while they, pin your shoulders. And then you get to turn around and go back so that they can pin the other side. If you become a corporal, it's crazy, right? You're thinking, what the hell are these dumb Marines doing, right? When you become a corporal, then you get the blood stripe. So the blood stripe, if you don't know Marines, if you look at the Marine Corps dress blue uniform, it has a red stripe down the trousers. That red stripe is called the blood stripe, and that is to commemorate all of the blood lost by non-commissioned officers at a battle called the Battle of Chapultepec. I want to say it was in the Mexican-American Wars. My memory's starting to fade, but not Chapultepec. That's the name you just can't forget, right? So in any case, that you wear the blood stripe when you become a corporal. So you'll notice the junior ranks, private to lance corporal, they don't have that red stripe in their dress blues. Corporals and above do. When you get promoted to corporal, all corporals and above get to pin that on too. And they do that with the knee, right? So they punch you in the shoulder, knee you in the leg, and they get to do both sides. But I was in Morocco when I got promoted to corporal. I got promoted meritoriously, which so there's regular promotion. It's always on the first of the month. The meritorious promotion was always on the second of the month, which I always thought was wrong. It should be the other way around. But I guess they figured that if you were promoted on the second of the month, you're senior to anybody else after you. Rather, if you're promoted on the first, I don't know. It's their logic. I can't tell you why. In any case, I was in Morocco and utility uniform on the beaches, and my platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Casey, decided it would be fun to do it the way the grunts do it in the field, because I was in light armored infantry. Even though I was a mechanic, technically, scout with a toolbox a lot of the time, I was in an infantry unit. So what they did is he had all the non-commissioned officers lay down in the sand facing each other from the whole company, right? And then I had to get in the low crawl position on one end, and then he got to the other end and he said, Corporal McVeigh, come on down. And I had to low crawl through a bunch of rabid dogs, basically, right? Marine non-commissioned officers wanting blood. So it was a battle, right? A 20, 30-yard battle. I don't know how the hell long it was. It was a long ways. And maybe it was 20 or 30 feet. I'm getting old. I don't remember. But it was, how much does it take to line up 40 NCOs? 20 on either side, 3 feet each. That's 60 feet, right? So, that's 20 yards. But anyway, I had to low crawl through them all while they're trying to punch me as hard as they can in the shoulder and in the leg. But that meant they were punching me in the face and in the neck and the shoulder and the back. And so you get the crap beat out of you. And I got all the way to the other end thinking I made it. Well, he was on the other end saying, Corporal McVeigh, what are you doing down there? Come on back. So I'd turn around and go back. So I get all that done. Now I'm promoted. Corporal McVeigh now. And I've got, bloody nose, bloody lip, ears almost torn off. Well, not quite, but you know what I mean. You're beat up. You've been, and trust me, you get promoted in the Marine Corps. This isn't love taps, right? These are, this is straight up knock down, dragged out. Let's see if I can knock him out while he's trying to do this, right? This is Marines. Marines don't play. They don't play that soft stuff, right? That doesn't go very well. So there was blood involved. Well, some of the NCOs decided that wasn't enough, and if you haven't guessed, I like to talk. And I guess they decided that I'd talked a little too much recently. Maybe I'd had some bourbon or something. And decided to really show some appreciation in their love for me by beating the hell out of me just a little bit more. But the problem was, I was about 195 pounds, rock hard, awesome physical condition. I was a hard charger, high speed, low drag. And they couldn't. 4 of them could not get me down. They were trying to get me down on the sand so they could beat the crap out of me on the sand. Stuff sand down my shirt. Who knows? Bloody my nose a little more. I don't know. We were laughing at the same time. It's dumb Marines. That's what we do, right? Have a good time. Beat the hell out of each other. Loser buys the beer. And actually, when you get promoted, you have to use your extra income that you now get every month to go out and buy the beer, which is called the wet down, right? You got to have a wet down. In any case, they couldn't get me down. 4 guys, they couldn't get me down. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes my really good buddy, Sergeant Ron Molash. In fact, I've talked about him in a previous video. We called him Ye Old Awesome Crispy Scabby Holy One. In fact, it has something to do with the Old Jarhead, why I'm the Old Jarhead. So, and this is way back. I was doing maintenance on the mill. I was either doing the umbrella stand on the mill a couple of years ago or something. I told this whole story. But, well, the story about the Old Jarhead and Ye Old Awesome One. So Ron Molash was one of these barrel-chested guys that if you were in a trench and there's tanks rolling towards you and all you've got is a couple bayonets, Ron's the guy you wanted with you in the trench, right? Because he would take one of those bayonets and go take the tank out. So that's the kind of guy he was. Well, Ron saw these guys trying to get me down, and we were really good friends. He really liked me. So what did he do? He came charging down the beach and did a flying tackle onto those guys, and all 5 of them finally got me down to the ground. And that's what popped my collarbone out and caused a bunch of back trouble. I didn't stop in the Marine Corps. I continued on anyway. But as we all learn, when you start to get older, I'm almost 58. I'll be 58 next month. Those come back to haunt you. And so ultimately the back injury, the neck injury, the shoulder, it's all related to that. And milling doesn't help. I've done some really big logs. I've dropped logs. I've dropped a 900-pound log on my foot once, broke some toes, or broke the big toe, squished some toes, lost some toenails. You know the drill. Been through all of that, and so you're carrying big beams, you're doing all those kind of things. There's potential to have injury, but if you've been injured when you're in your 20s and now you're in your 50s, those injuries get to come back and haunt you. Same with my hands. I have to get cortisone shots every 3 months in my hands. You can actually see, probably you could see a bump right there. That's my there you go. See that? That's my thumb starting to stick out the wrong way. Get shot up every 3 months. So so when you watch my videos and you see me out there, bucking logs and milling up a bunch of logs and doing all kinds of stuff, it really should change the channel to the Busted Up Old Jarhead. Because I am, right? My wife always jokes about it. She says I'm like a bull in a china shop, and I'm also too dumb to stop. So, well, I hope you enjoyed it. I have a lot of those, actually. But somebody told me once, he said, you should tell more stories, but I never really figure out how to fit those stories in when I'm sawmilling. And maybe that's why I do these lives sometimes, because I'll answer any questions. And when I say I answer any questions, I'll answer. I mean, as long as it's appropriate to answer them, I'm going to answer any question. What kind of bourbon? Well, it's 4 Roses small batch, I answer questions about YouTube. I'll talk about, tell you how I do things, what I do. I was at a barbecue last night or yesterday. We went to a Jeep Club barbecue, and we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and some of the guys were kind of interested there because they dabble a little bit in YouTube, and they were asking about some things, and so we got to chatting, and one of them said, how much are you making? And I laughed, and I told him. And it's funny because you'd think that YouTube pays a lot, and it really doesn't. That's why I mentioned the super stickers and super thankses and super chats earlier. Dean, who joins, he always does those. It's really greatly appreciated. Some of the guys do them on my videos. The truth is, a brand new video comes out, I might make $3 that day if it does really well. For that video, right? I might make $6 total for the day on a good day. Some days I make, $2. So it's not like, if you're a monetized YouTube channel, you don't make a ton of money unless you've got to have, at least over 100,000 probably subscribers and 1 million views a month. Then yeah, you're doing really well. But that's not why I do it. It's nice. I mean, it helps, get $100 a month. It's nice. If I get 200 or 300, great. But that's not why I do them. I just enjoy it. I have fun. Love to tell you my stories, and I like to share the sawmilling stuff and help other people do it. Right. I just love doing it. So Henry McKenna. Oh, what are we saying? Oh, you're just giving me your name, Henry? Is that what you're doing? No, because that's not right. That's Henry McKenna. The name sounds familiar. I'm not sure what it comes from. So Andy Cobb Brothers Logging, you're down in Georgia. So Henry McKenna, tell me about that name, and why you put it there, unless you're answering something. Always helps. I love to hear who's on there and what's going on. And Andy, I'm going to call you Andy because it says Andy Cobb. I believe you told me you're in Georgia and you're same age as I am, I think, 57, 58 years old. Mm. And I'm young on this channel, actually. I don't know if you guys know this. I think I might have said this. In a lot of my videos, it tells you all the ages of the people that watch the videos, and it's 55 and up, 100% in a lot of my videos, 55 and up, 99% men. So usually I'm pretty free to say whatever I want. I don't think I'm going to trigger anybody. And you get to talk to us. Exactly, right? That's the best part. I notice the people with injuries in high school are fine till they get old. Yeah, oh yeah. It's funny how my dad is 82, and he broke his neck when he would have been in his 30s. He was a welder, welding on a forklift. The fork came off the plate, which sounds kind of funny, forks and plates and a forklift, but that's how they work. We were up in Vanderhoof, British Columbia, but that thing fell on his head and broke his neck. And of course, he survived, obviously, but it wasn't until years later that started to cause him problems. And then he started having back problems because of it. And he spoke to a doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, they're all related. So I had the same thing happen with my shoulder, my dislocated collarbone. If you ever deal with the VA, if there's any guys out there in the military and you're debating, thinking about, or have dealt with the VA, you'll know that if you go in and say, yeah, I got this problem right here, they'll go, oh, great, here's 10%. Which is like, $189 a month or something like that. But assuming they agree it's service connected. But what they won't do is they won't say, and this out here is related to this, and this up here is related to this, and that down there, all of that is related to the same injury. And it wasn't actually until an orthopedic surgeon and I were talking about my collarbone, which nobody will repair. They say no one does that kind of surgery. So you sometimes will see me doing this in my videos just to put my collarbone back in. But it was the surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, that told me, he said, your discs and any back trouble you've got right now is all related to this one injury. And it's just that when you're younger, you're like elastic. You bounce back, you're strong, full of testosterone, got all the muscle. It's when you're in your 50s, it comes back to haunt you. So, Timothy Christian, I'm only 54, so be easy on my young, tender ears. 54, you're not that young and tender. Let's see, 54. You were born in 1969 then. See, you're still born in the 60s, man. That's your flower child, right? No, I don't think anybody born in the 60s is got tender ears anymore. Maybe not even the 70s. So, all right, what else we got? What questions have we got? Happy to answer them. We're sitting, oh, wow, 6:22. So I'm going to give you 8 more minutes, guys. I told my wife I was going to try to keep it to an hour tonight. I guess I lied. We're going to make it an hour and a half, though. So I got 8 more minutes for you. And then I have to go try to get the rooftop tent back down on the Jeep and somehow drive the Jeep back into the garage without ripping off, parts of the tent or the roof. And I will be posting a video over on my Jeep channel. So I hardly do Jeep. I haven't done a Jeep video in probably months. I don't generally do a lot because that's not a channel I really work hard at. It's just kind of a fun side thing I do. I took it off of my Sawmill channel because YouTube doesn't like it when you do that, right? So it's tough if you're trying to get paid a little bit for doing YouTube like I am. You want to show everything you do. It just doesn't work very well. So I do the YouTube the Jeep stuff over there when I do it. It's not very often, but and I did some awesome Jeeping last weekend. I didn't film it, so sorry guys. I intended to, I never did. But anyway, I have filmed putting the tent on the Jeep and trying to get the Jeep out of the garage. It's comical because you have to understand it would barely get out there before I put my lift in on my Jeep. Now with that 2.5-inch metal cloak lift, the way the tent was set up, I couldn't get the Jeep out of the garage. So I fixed that problem. We got it out, but it did involve a big old jarhead hanging off the passenger side, trying to ballast everything over so that it would tilt just enough to sneak underneath the garage roof. All right. Hey, good evening, W. Good to see you. Right on. All right. What else we got? We got 6 minutes, guys. Any questions you got left? What do you want to know? You ask them, I'll answer them. Henry McKenna. Oh, yes, I knew I had seen that. It's a whiskey I started drinking about 85, maybe 86. Oh, buddy, that passed on later that year. I'm sorry to hear that. But I kept the bottle here at the mill since that week. No, so you're talking 1985. I've seen I've seen that, but I think that's a top shelf whiskey. Um, and I don't think I've tried that one. And if you're new to watching my lives, I do talk about whiskey a little bit on my lives periodically. It's kind of a joke. I don't know if Desert Hobo's still out there. He was here earlier. I think he usually asks. Sometimes Mike does. Mike Wilson was here from Wilson Forest Lands. But so I like Old Forester. I drink a lot of Old Forester. I bought 1870 Old Forester 1870, which is, so if you're a whiskey drinker, don't drink the green stuff. Some white label's good, like Evan Williams white label is barreled in bond. That's actually pretty good. Jack Daniel's Old Number 7, that's a decent, and it is a bourbon. They call it Tennessee whiskey or Tennessee sour mash. Sour mash. It's still a bourbon. It's too expensive though, honestly, for what it is, right? I mean, I can buy a better bourbon for the same price. So, and I haven't drank Jack in years and years. I know they've gotten themselves into a controversy recently, but I don't care because I don't drink it anyway. But guys, I don't. I laugh at myself. Talk about bourbon all the time. I drink one or two. That's it. But truthfully, but anyway, I like a lot of different ones. But Old Forester, regular Old Forester is good stuff. It's inexpensive. So, you might see a Jack Daniels at $20 a bottle or something like that, and Old Forester will be sitting down there well, Jack is probably 25, and Old Forester will be sitting down there at like 19 or something for a fifth. And it's really good. I really like it. And then there's Old Forester 100. That's even better. And you can go all the way up to like Statesman. You can go a lot better than that too. They've got some really expensive stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just a guy that runs a sawmill. So you start getting into $50, $60 a bottle. I buy them once in a while for my weekend sipping bourbon, but not very often because I can't afford that. But I did get some 1870 I want to try, and that was probably $60 for that bottle. I think it was like 49 something, but I live in the commie state of Washington, so there's like $400 in taxes on a fifth of bourbon. It's probably like $9 or $12 or something on a fifth. It's ridiculous here. They're mad at us because we voted out the state-run liquor stores, and they didn't like that. But anyway, so Four Roses, Old Forester, Woodford Reserve, they're all good. I like a lot of different ones. So I'll have to try your Henry McKenna out. But all right, 3 more minutes, guys. What other questions we got? Anybody else go see that rock over on the community page and check it out and see what we're talking about. When Daryl over at Caper Country posted he sent me a link to a picture of what he thinks is a rock. I've just never cut a rock, but John Davidson suggests it could be a sandstone or something, and I think W said sandstone as well. I'm curious if anybody else has cut rock. I don't cut rock, so. But anyway, folks, I think we're about there. If there's no more questions, I think I'm going to call it. Y'all have a great night. We'll do it again. The Old Jarhead out.